I'd say that not many people in Baghdad were watching television tonight, though the Iraqis continue to get on the air. We monitor Baghdad radio from the island of Cyprus in the Mediterranean, just between Israel and Lebanon, and the Iraqis have been changing around from one frequency to the other of the day, and so you can track how much difficulty they have by how many frequencies they use in the course of a day. But perhaps the quote of the day from General Kelly seems all a little matter of fact, but it probably is the quote of the day. He says, Saddam Hussein may be holding back, but he is being attrited, which simply means he's being worn down, that his assets are being attacked all the time. We, the United States, he said, are not going to be punched out in a hurry. Let's go to the White House and ABC's Brit Hume. Brit, the president is said by somebody in that military briefing to be frustrated by the lack of information.
That came out of the morning briefing here at the White House today. His spokesman, Marlon Fitzwater, described him as frustrated and said that he hasn't been getting really any more information on the overall progress of the war than we and the media have. He is at this hour meeting with the High Command. Secretary of Defense Cheney was scheduled to meet with him this afternoon, but that meeting has now been expanded to include Secretary of State Baker, General Powell of the Joint Chiefs, his National Security Advisor Brent Scowcroft, and Vice President Quayle. Obviously, this question of the attacks on Israel will be a major subject, as it has been every time it has arisen since all this started last week.
Okay, Brit Hume, I apologize. I was slightly distracted. Did you tell us that the Secretaries of State and Defense had just shown up?
They are here, Peter. They are with the President in the Oval Office or in the complex back there as we speak. A meeting which was originally scheduled to be just a meeting with the Secretary of Defense, but now has been expanded. The President is leaving the fighting of the war largely to the generals, but this is a matter with all kinds of diplomatic and political significance, and the President has had a hand in it from the moment it arose, and other presidential actions may well come out of this meeting.
Okay, Brit Hume at the White House, thank you very much, and John McCarthy at the State Department. They will both be with us on an expanded edition of World News Tonight. Not altogether sure what it says about the state of the world, but stocks are down 20 points, and oil is up $4 a barrel. That's a big jump for oil, which is clearly a reflection of the oil fires in Kuwait and the general instability it causes in the international oil market, even when there is, as there is, a glut of oil on the international market. On World News Tonight, we'll also have a chance to talk to the senior Iraqi diplomat in the United States. What has he got to say about the condition in Baghdad at the moment? I'm Peter Jennings at ABC News headquarters in New York.
This has been an ABC News special report. The Gulf War.
Spain has attacked Israel again. About 60 people were injured when an Iraqi Scud missile landed in a densely populated neighborhood in Tel Aviv. Some 20 buildings were hit. Police and medical workers rushed to the scene, pulling people out of the rubble. The first pictures of bloodshed we've seen since Operation Desert Storm began. The hit came even though U.S. manned Patriot missiles were launched and did succeed in intercepting one or more Iraqi Scuds. In Washington, President Bush is meeting with Defense Secretary Cheney and other top administration officials. This has been a Gulf War.
Richard Brown. It is Wednesday morning in the Persian Gulf. The Israeli Knesset is meeting at this hour to decide what to do about the Iraqi missile attack that killed Israeli citizens. 2 more American POWs appeared on Iraqi TV today, and Iraqi forces set fire to Kuwaiti oil fields. And tonight, another air raid in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, the 5th of the day. Tonight, rescue workers continue to dig through the rubble of bombed-out apartment buildings and homes in Tel Aviv. The death toll is 3. 2 are said to have died of heart attacks. A third died when a wall collapsed. Dozens of ambulances responded to the Tel Aviv neighborhood. Reports say at least 98 people have been injured. Officials are reporting 1 Scud missile hit this area. Patriot missiles were fired to intercept, but somehow this Scud got through.
Casualties and damage are subjects the Pentagon has intentionally avoided. But tonight, President Bush is reviewing the best available information on the results of a full week of heavy bombing of Baghdad. Some of that information is expected to be released at a Pentagon press briefing tomorrow. This in spite of the fact that Pentagon officials say they don't want to get into a daily casualty count. At the same time, U.S. diplomats are pressing Israel to stay the course of non-retaliation.
It's not the matter of an eye for an eye, it's the matter of how to act in the best way in order to defend our population and in order to prevent further attacks in the future.
Undersecretary of State Lawrence Eagleburger remains in Israel trying to maintain the argument that Israeli retaliation is exactly what Saddam Hussein wants.
Air raid alerts are coming with greater frequency in Saudi Arabia. Still, the Iraqi Scud missiles aren't hitting targets in Saudi Arabia because of the potent Patriot missile. KGO's Greg Jarrett is in Saudi Arabia covering the war. Greg, with all the air raid sirens going off, is it beginning to affect people psychologically there?
There's no doubt about that, Richard. There were 5 air raid warnings in about a 13-hour period taking in the overnight here in Dhahran. Now, only 2 of the alerts early on proved to be genuine, with Scud missiles taken out by those Patriot defense weapons, as you said. Any complacency concerning the threat of the Iraqi missiles has been wiped out when Israel took hits overnight. Tensions, as you say, are running high with repeated trips to the bomb shelter. In fact, there has been one instance of a short-lived fistfight between a TV cameraman who was videoing people running down into the shelter and one of the people he was videotaping. It was broken up by the military before it got too bad, but you can see the conditions are worsening with nobody getting much sleep and 5 alerts in a 13-hour period. Richard?
Greg, this is Anna. In a few moments, we'll be looking at the weather forecast and satellite maps of the Gulf region. Can you tell us whether cloud cover might indicate that you could expect more Scud missile attacks from Iraq?
Under the best of conditions, Anna, we can expect a 90-second warning before the missiles get here because the satellites have to be able to see that launch and relay it to us. The problem we've been having here with the missiles that come in is usually the siren has just begun ringing when all of a sudden we hear the explosions outside of the Scuds being taken out by the Patriots. So that time has obviously been cut to almost nothing because of the cloud cover. Right now, skies have been clear, but there are, as you say, more clouds coming in over the area. The weather's horrible from a pilot's point of view, but they're still flying. I just don't know if they're seeing what they're hitting at this point.
Greg, over here we're not hearing much about casualties and death in Iraq. Are you hearing any more over there about casualties?
Well, the only thing I've heard so far is a limited number of casualties of civilians in the major cities. We've heard, I think it was 5 in Baghdad, with about 70 people injured, and some of the other cities, Basra is being hit very hard. We heard about maybe 7 or 8 people killed there with numerous injuries. We did hear about an exchange of artillery between Iraqi troops and our soldiers at the front that may have resulted in as many as 70 casualties on the Iraqi side.
Greg Jarrett in Saudi Arabia, thank you very much. Of course, Greg will continue to report on KGO Radio every morning and will continue to report for us here on Channel 7 as well.
Today, our government announced they will stop releasing personal information about American pilots missing in action. But today, Iraqi television released videotape of 2 more captured airmen. The sights of these captured